I'm at Chateau Rauzan Segla with John Kolasa. John, if you could please give us some background on the 2010 vintage and any comments you have about it.
Well, the comments at the moment are really very positive as far as the crop is concerned. The vintage, we're practically mid-February today, so we're, I suppose, halfway through the conception of the blend of the 2010 vintage, both at Canon and Rauzan Segla. We're nearly there. We'll probably be finished. Hopefully, we'll be finished by the end of the month. We're perhaps a little bit later than usual because physically the malolactics have been relatively slow this year.
That's interesting.
And perhaps more so overall, but more so in Saint-Emilion. But we're coming to an end now, and the simple reason for being so slow and so long is because of the richness of what nature has given us.
Because there couldn't have been a lot of malic acid in the wines, though, surely.
There was more than what you think.
Really?
Which we discovered afterwards.
Interesting. Okay.
And in fact, it is a pleasant surprise as well to find the acidity and the freshness in the wines. Which make them a little bit different to the 2009, which remain luscious and soft and round and extremely sexy, in inverted commas.
Yeah.
Very approachable. You remember when you were tasting them En Primeur?
Yeah.
Very, very approachable. They've remained that way, which I'm pleased with at Rauzan and Canon, because we haven't exaggerated too much on the oak, and we've kept that true identity of the 2009.
That lovely bright fruit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lovely, luscious, soft, velvety and very long wines.
And I remember Rauzan Segla particularly, sexy is the right word.
Yeah, exactly. We've stayed that way. We haven't changed things, and we've only put 50% new oak. Okay. So that the alcohol hasn't extracted too much wood.
And there is a bit of alcohol in 2010.
There's a bit of alcohol, there's a lot of everything. There's a lot of everything. It's such a rich vintage, and the great difference is the acidity.
I was going to say, so that's the big difference, is it?
So at the moment I see this more like my times at Latour, when I saw 89 being born, and then I saw 90. And the difference is really there in this sort of more masculine, more austere vintage, which is terribly concentrated in everything, the richness in everything, in alcohol, in tannin, and the extra acidity. So theoretically, we haven't finished conceiving things yet, but theoretically it is a great vintage for keeping and will probably last a century. Yeah.
And you said about the concentration of the 2010s, is that because the flowering was incomplete and there's less wine? Is that the concentration, or is it simply the vintage that's...
There's a little bit of that, but it's sporadic according to where you would go. We had a bit of problems with Milerandage and Coulure in Margaux and a few other places as well, in Pomerol and some of the old Merlot. But generally, I don't know if it is really because of global warming, but we come to a point in Bordeaux by the end of August, beginning of September, when we are kneeling down and lighting candles and praying for rain. Because if we have rain during the winter, it doesn't seem to come as it used to do in the past. At the beginning of September, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the crop itself, everything was freshened up again with a little bit of rain. It doesn't seem to come naturally anymore. So we end up with smaller berries, thicker skins, less juice, therefore more sugar, more alcohol, and more richness. It's more of a physical phenomena that comes at that time. And today it's all a question of balancing out the number of bunches that you actually leave on that vine, so that it can nourish everyone completely and evenly, so that you get a nice wine at the end of the day. It is causing a few headaches and a few problems, but we're thinking about it and we're trying to adapt as we go along.
Yeah, so it's not. Are you happy with this trend? I mean, do you like the way it's going, or do you long for an easier...
No, but we only produced 38 hectolitres per hectare at Rauzan, and quite honestly, when you have a density of plantation at 10,000 plants per hectare, I would be much happier with 45
or something like that, so
a bit of wine missing, and it is causing a problem because young plantations are suffering a lot, and we're having, we don't have the true ripening phenomena in the lots of young vines that we have. We can't put them in the Grand Vin. The root system is not yet deep enough, and they do suffer in the afternoon from the drought.
Interesting. That is interesting. interesting. And what's the long-term outlook?
The long term, well, that we don't really know. We persist in what we're doing, and Cabernet Sauvignon is becoming far more important in the blending all the way through the Medoc. We've got some very old Merlot that we're cherishing very much. We've got young Merlot that's suffering. It's a matter perhaps of changing the actual setting of the plantations and putting the Merlot on a more clay basis in the Medoc, so that they don't suffer as much. Obviously, we don't have the same problem at Canon. Canon is situated next to the village on a huge sponge.
I was going to say, it's like a giant aquifer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we have a better regulation of the humidity and freshness in the soil. And in 2010, we produced a normal crop at Canon. We didn't suffer that much. Even ripening and again, a fantastic vintage.
No, it's a real advantage.
Very ripe tannins. It's very, it depends. So we always come back to the terroir. You see.
Of course.
Somewhere the terroir does count to a great extent in having a series of good vintages, even quality, etc. It's very important.